My name's Delia Brown and I'm from Australia, and I'm here representing the copyright interests of schools and technical institutes in Australia, and we've been having an interesting discussion about the two reasons why Creative Commons initiatives are really good for education in Australia. And one is to do with the fact that because we've got a really complicated licensing system set out in our legislation for education, we are finding that we are paying ourselves for using our own stuff, even teachers, etc. So we think Creative Commons licenses and labelling will actually assist making sure that that open access stuff is not paid for under the...
But how does that work exactly? Why are you paying for the stuff twice?
Because the way that they assess the fees is done through a sampling scheme. So numbers of schools are selected, they do full recording of what they copy and communicate for a period of time, and that data is then used to extrapolate what the fees are, and that data is on a per page basis. The payment's on a per page basis. So that means, and we have no way of knowing whether Creative Commons or other free for education stuff is actually taken out. And the one way we can ensure from now on is by labelling stuff very clearly as being either under a particular license, whether it's Creative Commons or free for education or another type of license that we developed. But at the moment, what's been happening is we suspect we are paying for a lot of stuff that was always intended to be free.
And we is actually the Department of Education?
Departments of Education.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's not unusual because the copyright costs have gone up. Since 1999, schools are paying $9.6 million just for photocopying. Last year, we were paid $61.7 million.
Jesus.
And maybe that's to do with increased use of information communications technology. But, you know, the hours of you go to school haven't increased, and the workload hasn't increased that much.
Copying takes time.
Yeah, and so a lot of money spent creating resources for schools by government departments of education. So really that's one thing, like, you know, how do we ensure that stuff that we're creating we want people to use for free are not captured in these statutory license schemes that are actually set out in our copyright legislation. And the second thing is, like, okay, that's all very well for us to, you know, share, but how do we also encourage people to create? And teachers don't own copyright in the materials that they create for school or for education. It's owned by their employer. Generally speaking, the employer will be the Department of Education, or it might be an association if it's an independent school or non-government school. So how do we get those administering bodies comfortable about letting their teachers create, innovate and put stuff up on a repository to be freely accessed by other teachers, whether they're from that state or that school sector or another state or another school sector. So how do we get people to relax their ownership?
Because right now, if you're from one state, you can't even access the materials that someone has...
You can now under a license we've created, but it's not a Creative Commons license. Okay. And what I'd like to see is the license that we've created actually turn into more open access. But yeah, so you can sort of, some things you can now access, you can use. But the next stage now is the education sector's interested now in creating an infrastructure, technological one, which allows people to access different repositories and also encourage them to upload onto those repositories. So how are we going to create a safe rules for people to do that in, which makes the administering bodies not nervous about copyright infringement, but doesn't be too restrictive on teachers creating and uploading onto that environment. So that's what I'm looking forward to doing. Trying to find out what are the best ways of doing that.
Cool.
Talking to other people.
And what was your experience of the first day here at the summit?
Oh, it's really good. I was expecting more lawyers to be in the. When I realised I was the only lawyer in the open education track, that was kind of interesting. All the lawyers downstairs probably arguing about license terms and what's a contract and license. I actually think I was in a better session.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.